All right, good evening. We are on Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. We are 7 lines down in the middle wide lines, not the widest of the lines and not the skinniest of the lines.
Wideish.
The middle wide, right, mid-range. Mm-hmm. And I think it's 7th or 8th line down. Amar Rava will just summarize what we've been talking about. Rava says, Hilchasa, at the end of the day, here's the halacha, okay? Yayin Mazug, if you've got wine that is already diluted, Yesh bo mishum gilui, you do have to worry about it being opened. It turns out the snakes you do have to worry about that. V'yesh bo mishum yayin nesach, and you do have to worry about yayin nesach for that wine as well. Yayin mevushal, when it comes to cooked wine, ein bo mishum gilui, that the snakes are not hanging out with, that's okay. Ve'ein bo mishum yayin nesach, and you don't have to worry about yayin nesach either.
Why don't the snakes like cooked wine?
You gotta ask a snake. Yeah. You gotta ask a snake. It's hard to know with snakes. They don't tell you a lot. Okay, now let's go on. Sham'ei de Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi. So there's the servant of Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi, Iglaya hahu kista demaya. So v'haya nayim gaba. So he had some water, and in some kind of container, right? That's called a kista. That was the name of the container, I think, right? Or an amount. Maybe that was the measurement, right? Yeah. He had a kista of water, and he fell asleep right next to the water. So he's got this uncovered water that he was asleep by. So also the Gabi Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi. So he went to Rav Chilkiah bar Tuvi, and he said, Amrle, Hari Amru Amos Yoshan Alehen.
Yeah, so kista what is like a little measure of the wine.
So that's the wine or water we're dealing with, right? There's water here, right? It's Maya, right? So they had a measurement of water. So he went to Rav Chilkiah and he said to him, okay, so what should we do with this water? So he says, Amos Yoshan Alehen. So the Chacham said that the fear of a sleeping person is on the snakes. They're not going to hang around. They're scared of a person lying there. So that is going to it's going to keep the snakes away. So the fact that you were lying there next to the water kept it protected.
But you think a snake, you're lower than the snake. The snake would have their anger attacking you.
I don't know that. Well, are you asking me snake behavior? Because I'm not an expert on snake behaviors. I'm just telling you what Rav Chilkiah says. This is snake behavior. And he says that they are afraid of people. They generally stay away. And so if you see a sleeping person there, the snake is not going to go to the water. Okay? V'hani mili biyamama. That's only if you fall asleep, take a nap during the day. Aval belel lo, but not true at night, right? So therefore, if I guess the snakes presume that it's the person's asleep for the night, he's not going to wake up, and so therefore they move in on the water when the person's asleep. Okay, so that's not. So you get your water next to your bed overnight, then that's not going to help you. But if you're taking a nap and you've got your water uncovered, you leave your water bottle cover off, you're okay, right? Velohi, but that is not the halacha though, right? Lo shna b'yamama v'lo shna b'lelia. It doesn't matter whether it's day. It doesn't matter whether it's night. Amos yashan alehen lo amrina. We do not say that the snakes are afraid of a sleeping person, and so therefore you do have to be worried about it. Okay, you just as you would have presumed. Again, I don't know snakes. I don't have any friends that are snakes. I don't know. Rav lo shasi mibei arama. So Rav, right, would never drink water from a non-Jew, right? Amar lo zehiri bigilui. They're not worried about this leaving things uncovered. And so, therefore, if I drink water from non-Jews, I may be drinking a dangerous situation. Mibei armalta, right? But place of if you have a woman who is a widow, so it can, practically speaking, a woman who's a widow, sometimes she can be a little bit more lax with halacha. She doesn't have her husband around reminding her of certain halachos. So, but nevertheless, shasi, he would drink from a widow's house. Because Amar, sircha de gavra nikita. So he would say that she keeps the customs that she had, right? When her husband was around, this was the custom things they did. So she's going to keep that. So therefore, he didn't have to worry about them leaving their water uncovered overnight. So he would not have a problem with that. Shmuel lo shasi maya mi be'ar malta. Shmuel did not drink water from an almana's house. Amar leis law imtuk degavra. So she doesn't have to worry about the fear of her husband, right? So she's not worried about him keeping things in the house under control. Velo michsamaya, and therefore she doesn't cover all the water as much as she should. Aval mi be'arama shasi, but he, on the other hand, he would drink the water from the non-Jews. Nehi de igluya lo kapti. It's fine. They're not so worried about water being covered. Aman karusa miha kapti. He says, however, the cleanliness of the water, they are worried, right? So therefore, they may not be worried about things being left overnight, right? About the snake, but they do worry about things falling in their water. So they close the lid, right? They close the lid on their water barrel when it's not in use to keep it fine. So you don't have to worry about the non-Jews. Igadamri, there are those who say Rav lo shasi mayim mi arma. There was Rav who said that he wouldn't drink water from a non-Jew. Aval mibe armalta shasi, and he would drink it from a widow. And Shmuel lo shasi maya lo mibe arma velo mibe armalta.
Not Jewish, you'd be okay drinking that water.
Sorry,
Even though it was not Jewish, you'd be okay drinking that water.
no, because then I guess the non-Jewish part overrules the widow part, right? It's not that the widow makes it so that you can drink. It's just that being a widow does not make it so that you can't. Right, so either one of these things could be a disqualifier of the water, right? But Shmuel, he wouldn't drink from either, right? He was worried about either circumstance. That's some other explanation, other version of what Shmuel held over there. Okay, next, Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Rabbi Shua ben Levi says shalosh genos hein. There are three types of wine that we have to worry about. Three levels of wine that we have to worry about. Ve'ein bahen mishum gilui. You don't have to worry about these three types of wine in being uncovered, because the snakes they don't get into these types of wine. Ve'eluhain. First of all, chad. The first one is mar. The first one is bitter wine, right? So overly bitter wine. So therefore they don't drink from that. Matok, an overly sweet wine, right? They don't want to drink.
Like Rashi, like, for example.
It's a good question. I'm not exactly sure what it's like. Right? They stay away from that. And chad, and one of them is tila charifa. It was a very strong type of wine. It was like vinegary type of wine, and they don't drink from that. De mitzri zike, right? Because of how strong it was, it actually damages the containers that it's in. It actually eats away at the containers. It's very high acid content. And mar, what is mar? Is yarnaka. It is called yarnaka wine. That's the type of wine it is. He says it's a type he has in the translation. It's a bad and bitter type of a wine that was there. And matok is chulia. Matok sweet wine is made from the grapes that are on the tip of the ends of the vines, and as a result, they're overly sweet. And I guess wine that comes from overly sweet grapes is not that good, right? And you'll have to ask Rabbi Gisselson as the type of sugar content that you need in your grape in order to make good wine. But this was all not good wine. I think that's the point of it. And so therefore the snakes are you don't have to worry about the snakes getting into these kinds of things. Rav Chama Masni Le'iluya. And he would say that that these are three types of wine that are actually better, right? The way we interpret them, that these were three types of wine that weren't as good. So he said, Chad, Chamar u Pilpulin. First of all, if you've got wine and you would add spices to it, right? So it'd have a spicy wine. That's a Chad wine, is a spicy wine. And this was a peppery wine that they would add on. Mar, the bitter wine, is wine that is necessary for medicinal purposes, as he says, like absinthin, which I looked as he translates as absinthe. Which, if you go to your LCBO, you can get absinthe. Yep. It is actually a thing.
Can you find a kosher absinthe?
I don't know if you can find a kosher. I presume you can, right? I don't know the rules of that. What's in an absinthe? I guess if it comes from grapes, it may be a problem. But you'd have to get one that is kosher. You can't just like go and get a scotch or whatever. You have to get one that's kosher if it comes from grapes, right? But he says it comes from absinthe, which is some kind of a grass, he says. So I don't know. So if it comes from some kind of bitter grass, as where it comes from. I don't know. I didn't do it that much research. I just did absinthe. Isn't that a real thing? And then I Googled it and I could find it, bottles of it. It's like greenish looking bottles in the LCBO. So yeah. And matok, and the sweet is Maybarg. That is a very nice type of wine, I guess. He says barg, he says in Persian means good. It's a elevated, like a good elevated type. And since there are elevated types of wine, snakes don't like those either, right?
I have a little more of an anise flavor to it.
Heza?
Anise, the anise and anise, the licorice flavor. Anise.
Beyond me. I'm not an expert. But in any event, these are things, snakes don't go after these things either. That's the point here. Amr Shimon says, Karina ein bog mishum gilui. When it comes to Karina, right, you don't have to worry about them being opened either. My Karina, what is this Karina? Rabbi Yavo says, Chamra Chalya de Asi me Asya. It is a sweet wine which is brought from a place called Asya. And the first thing that hit me is, where's Asya? And I thought, Asia, right? Asia, right? Sounds right?
Yeah.
It isn't. So apparently it was a region in Babylonia. There was a place called Asya. And it was a Babylonian wine. And you don't have to worry about it. I guess, again, it was an unusual flavor. The snakes don't get into that. You don't have to worry about that as well. Amar Rava. Rava says, Ubimakomo yesh bo mishum gili. But if you are in the place where they make it, then you do have to worry about it, because I guess the snakes of that location have a taste for it, and so therefore you have to worry about it there. But if you have imported wine from that province, right, which is an unusual taste, the snakes in this location don't have it. My taima chamar medinahu, because that is the beverage of that location. Right. So that's what the snakes of that location are used to. Amar Rava says, Hai chamra de akrim. If you have wine which has gone bad, right? It started to turn to vinegar. Ad tlosa yomi yesh bo mishum gili. You still have 3 days until it really turns to vinegar, and you still have to worry about leaving it open for 3 days.
Even though it's expired enough to get out of the fridge.
It's expired, but it's expiring. It's like just that's what we're saying. It's just we got akrim it's just started to go bad. So you still have 3. That's this point is from the time it just starts to go bad, you've got 3 days that it's still considered to be in the category of wine before it's officially vinegar. It takes 3 days for it to officially vinegarize, right? Umishum yayin nesach, and you also have to worry about yayin nesach. It's still a good enough quality that you still have to worry about your yayin nesach. Lamed amid beis mikan ve'elach. From then on, after 3 days, ein bo mishum gilui v'ein shum mishum yayin nesach. You don't have to worry about leaving it open. You don't have to worry about yayin nesach. At that point, it's already vinegary and not quality enough that you have to worry about it anymore. V'nahardoi Amri, and in Nahardoi, they said, Afilu lebasar tlasa yomi chayshinon mishum gilui. Even after 3 days, you still have to worry about it being left open, even though it's vinegary. The snakes do go after. My taima. What's the reason? Zimnin mikri shasi. The reason is because you don't. Sometimes a snake will drink it after it already has turned vinegary. I would have thought because maybe the snake drank from it before it turned vinegary, and then it stayed there. But that is not the issue, because their point that they're making is even after it becomes vinegary, you still can't leave it open. So, right, because if you had left it closed all that time, but then left it open after day 4, that's still going to be a problem, because the snakes do drink from it even after it turns vinegary, according to Nardai. Tana Rabbanan, our rabbis learn, Yayin Toses, which is new wine. Right, it's like grape juice. Right, it's right after it's squeezed. Ein bo mishum gilui. It is not. There's no problem leaving that open. V'kama so. How long is it that it stays in the status of the brand new wine that you don't have to worry about it? Gimel yomim. It's for 3 days. Right. That is from the time you squeeze it for 3 days. It hasn't fermented at all, and you don't have to worry about it being left for snakes. Hashcholim. Right, this is the cress, right? So we're back to cresses. Hashcholim ein bahen mishum gilo. You don't have to worry about them being left out, because I guess snakes don't really care for cresses. Bnei gola nagu bahen iser. But in the people of the gola, right, the exile, the people in the chutz laaretz, they did worry about it, because the snakes did sometimes take from it. Velo amran ela deles behu chala, and that is only if it's not mixed together with vinegar. Aval is behu chala, but if they took the cress and it was commonly dipped in a vinegary type thing, migri behu. So then they then that chases away the snakes. Snakes are not interested in the vinegar. So if you got cress, which they're not that interested in the first place, I guess, and then you put some vinegar on it, then they're not that interested in it. Kutach habavli, right? If you take this Babylonian kutach, which was some kind of spoiled milk, kind of like a sour cream mixed with various, I think, fish and things they had in it. It was like a
whey and moldy breadcrumbs.
That's those moldy breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Whey and moldy breadcrumbs.
I lost my appetite.
I was trying to make it sound better by saying sour cream or something, but it really is, yeah.
Right.
It's whey and moldy bread. Like, that's their cereal, right? So if they have that Ein Bo Mishum Gilui, guess what? Snakes aren't eating it either. Not only just you and me, right? You don't have to worry about leaving it out. Ubnei Gola Nagu Bo'isr, but the people in Chutz La'aretz, they did worry about it because sometimes snakes would get to it. Amar Rav Menashi. Rav Menashi says, "I is be nikure," right? If you've got like snake marks on the right, because I guess it's sort of had a thickness, obviously, like saying whey, it's got some kind of a thickness texture of it. If you can see that it's got something like looks suspicious on it, so then the isbe nikuri chayshinon, then you have to worry about like snakes getting into it, right? If you see like snake bite marks in it, then stay away from it. Amar Rav Chia Barashi, Amar Shmuel, may tif. If you've got water which is dripping down, drip by drip, right, from one utensil to another, Ein Bo Mishum Gilui, that you don't have to worry about it being left out, right? Because I guess the fact that it is, I guess it keeps it moving. Is that what it is? He says, "Shay metaftip meheros v'kol atiftav nishma b'kifos tipa achar tipa." I guess it keeps the noise, keeps the snakes away. So what he's trying to say over here, that the dripping, the snakes, they're not interested in the risk. They stay away from it. Okay. Amar Ravashi says, "Vehu de'ovid tif." Tif lahadade tif. That as long as it's dripping fast enough that it's still making the dripping sounds, right? Then you have to worry about it. Then you don't have to worry about it. Amar Rav Chia Barashi, Samar Shmuel, pi te'ena. Right, if you chop off the top of a fig, not if you ever had a fresh fig. Not a lot of fresh figs around here. Somebody who I know had known once had a fig tree in his backyard, and he gave me fresh fig. It is tremendously juicy and tasty.
I'm pretty sure you can find fresh figs in supermarkets as well, no?
Can you? I've never. I don't see them.
Kind of dried out.
Right, they're always dried figs, which are terrible.
They expired.
The dried figs are terrible, but a fresh fig is delicious. I'm always so surprised.
Is it sticky?
Yeah, it's like a really sweet, it's delicious fruit. Anyway, that's my side mark. But here, the point is that it's got a liquidy inside. So therefore, if you cut off the top, Ein Bo Mishum Gilui, you might worry that snake's going to get to that. You don't have to worry about it. Keman, so who's that? Like Kihai Tana, it's like the following Tana de Tanya that learned in a Bryce Rabbi Eliezer says, Ocho Odem Anavim Uteinim Balayla. A person can eat grapes and he can eat figs by night. Veino Choshesh Mishum and Veino Choshesh, and he doesn't have to worry about the snakes, right? Putting their venom in there. Mishum Shnemer, Pasuk says, Shomer Pisayim Hashem. Hashem guards and protects the fools, right? Guards and protects the fools. So it's not, even though it's not a wise thing to be eating what you can't see in the middle of the night, Hashem protects you, I guess, in those circumstances.
I look at the ingredients.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Shefa, abundance. Shefa much abundance.
Okay. Amar Rav Safra Mishum Rabbi Yeshua de Roma. So Rav Safra said the name Rabbi Yeshua of Roma. And he says as opposed to Romi, so maybe this might be actually the Rome, right? He says
they translate of the south.
Oh, da Roma, that's what it is, da Roma of the south. Shosha mine, it didn't make as much sense that it would be from Rome. Shosha mine oros hain. There's 3 types of venom that you should know about. Shalbocher, shokea. Young snakes have very thick venom, and it sinks to the bottom. And shalbeinoni, if you've got a middle-aged snake, so mipapea. So then it is it absorbs into the middle of the drink. V'shel and an older snake, tzaf, it floats. The venom floats. So as the snake gets older, the venom gets more buoyant. That's what you have to know about it. Buoyant, that more easily floats. Lememra, dekama dekoshish kochish chele. That seems to imply that the older a snake gets, the less powerful it is, right? Because the venom seems to be less potent as the snake gets older. V'hatanya, but we learn a brisa not like that. Shlosha kol zman shemazkinin. There are three things that, as long as they get older, gevura mitosefis, and they get stronger as they get older. Elohein, here they are: dog, a fish; nachash, a snake; v'chazer, and a pig. Don't ask. You're not gonna look at the face. I don't know. I've never owned a pig, or I had a fish. It died, so I thought it was an age thing. Apparently, it's a me thing.
The one thing that's shocking is the fish part.
You know what the thing is, though?
Fish.
If you've ever had a fish, if you ever had a goldfish, right? They get bigger, and they get bigger. Well, no, not if you really have one that you take care of, right? They get bigger, and they get bigger, and they get bigger. They don't just stop growing. They take up the size of the tank, right? They can get pretty big. So I guess they get stronger as they get older. Until you forget to feed them when you go away on vacation, and that's the end.
Wow.
And a pig. Okay, now, koach hasufi, who to kamosif, zehirei kolish. He says, yeah, but they themselves get stronger. That doesn't mean that the venom gets less potent. The venom can float. That's a different story. Those are two different things. You're just taking a look and going, snakes, and it does make sense. There are snakes seem to get bigger and bigger as they get older, right? They get bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Okay. So shalbach or shokeya. So we said that the young snakes, their venom sinks. So who cares? Like what practical purpose do you need to know about that? Detanya winer brisa. Chavis shenis gala. If you've got a barrel and it's been left uncovered, ava pisha shasu imena tisha, even though 9 people have drank from it, and you're thinking this is safe, right? I know it was left open. It must be safe. 9 people drank from it. Velo mesu, and they didn't die. Lo yishtem imena yusha asiri. The 10th guy should not drink from it still, because if it's from a snake, if it's venom from a young snake, the venom could be at the bottom, and then you'll drink it. Masahaya, there was a story that happened like that. Tisha, that 9 people drank from it. Velo mesu, and they did not die. Vishasa asiri, and the 10th guy did. Umes, and he died. So it doesn't mix. The venom doesn't mix equally throughout the thing. It just is wherever it is.
That's what you got. Was the lucky one?
That's correct. Well, yeah, it depends on how you count lucky. Amar Yirmiyah, Rabbi says zehu shokeya. This is what it means, that it sinks. Right. That's what we mean. V'chein, a similar situation. Avatiach. He had a watermelon. Right. So it's just either a melon or a watermelon. And shenisgala, and it was left open. Right? Apparently you got to worry about watermelons too, right? So worry about those too. Always cover your watermelons. It's the summertime. Yeah. It's a good public service announcement from Daf Yomi. Even though 9 people ate from the watermelon and they were fine, velo mesu, they didn't die. Lo yochel mimena asiri, the 10th guy should not eat from it and presume it to be safe. Ma'isa haya, there was a story that happened like that. Va'achlu mimena tisha velo mesu, 9 people ate from that watermelon and they did not die. Va'achasiri umes, the 10th guy ate from it and he died.
You didn't eat the black seeds without the black seeds.
It does not say about the seeds. It just says about the venom, right? Stay away from the venom. The seeds are okay.
I had a good watermelon, and I'm pretty sure I tasted venom and I'm still alive.
Amar Rabbi, so he says zehu shokeh. That's what it means, that the venom sinks, right? It goes into what could be in one place. You think that it's safe, it's not. Tanarab Rabbi, Maim shenis galu. If you've got water that is left open, harezeh lo yishavchem b'reshus harabim. You can't pour that out in a public place. The venom's dangerous, right? You pour it out in public, and somebody else could get injured by it. Velo yarbitz behen es habayit, but you shouldn't. What they used to do with some water is they had dirt floors. So what they would do is they would spray some water in order to get it. You don't want it muddy, but you want it a little damp, right? Like they do around, if you ever watch a baseball game, they spray around first base, second base, right? Right? Spray the infield with a little bit of water. You don't want it dusty.
In between innings.
In between innings, that's right. So that's basically what they would do, and so they keep it from getting dust. You don't want clouds of dust floating around your infield, but that was what they would do. A little bit of water. Don't use this water, though. Don't use the left water to let you leave open. It's dangerous. Also, don't use it for mixing your cement, right? You're building something. Don't put the water into that because it's dangerous. You can't give it to your animals to drink. V'lo behemoth chavero, and not your friend's animals to drink.
You think you can't put in the mixture of cement, but the problem is if the cement dries.
I'm not sure they're worried about the cement drying. I'm sure what happens is we're going to see that it can actually be dangerous even if it gets on your body, on your skin, right? So if you have workers that are working with the cement and you've got venomous, dangerous materials in that, it can hurt them. just by using this, by forming the cement.
So it could be corrosive, basically.
I think so, yeah. That's what it sounds like. V'lo yirchatz behen panav yodav ragav. You can't wash your face, hands, and feet with it. Acher moment others say makom sheyesh sirta aser. Ain sirta mutter. It depends if you've got any. What is it? He says sirta. The word sirtut in when we talk about when we talk about mezuzahs and things is that scored line, like a fold, it's like a score. You make a little mark. So these are like marks in the skin. If you've got some kind of folds in the skin, I'm not sure whether the folds have to have an open sore or open wound, right? But if you've got any sort, it sounds like any kind of surface that the liquid could get into and stay there. That's where it becomes dangerous. But on a flat part of the skin, it won't be a problem because it's not going to stay there. So meaning mild contact isn't going to hurt you. But severe, sustained contact is where it can get dangerous. And that's why he says it makes a difference if you've got... So Achirim Hainu Tanakama, are they saying anything that's different? So the answer is... right? Both the Tanakama says you shouldn't wash your face, your hands, and your legs, right? Those are also places where you have places that the venom can get into and it can be dangerous. So Ikka Beinayu, the difference is Gav Hayad, the back of your hand, V'Gav HaRegel, the back of the foot, V'Romnei Da'api, and the cheekbones. These are places that there are no folds in the skin, generally speaking, and so therefore, according to the first opinion, it would seem like you should not wash it. Should not wash with it anyway. According to the second opinion, you would be able to because it's not a place where the water is going to gather or stay. So stay away from it. Amar Mar says lo yashke mehen lo behem tov lo behemas chavero. You can't drink, cause your animals to drink from it. Can't give your friends, your neighbors, animals to drink from it. Vehatanya, we learn a brisa aval meshkehu le behemas atzmo. It says over here that you're allowed to give it to your animal. So which is it? Can you not give it to your animal or not?
The animal.
Right?
You're killing your animal instantly.
That's the question. Instantly, right? So we'll see. Kitanya hi l'shunra. The answer is that's because of cats. Cats apparently are not as affected by the venom here, right? So therefore, a cat, right? You can give the water to the cat because the cat's going to be okay.
How is the cat able to drink venom?
You know, Yehuda. Science experiment time. I can see there's a long time between this Daf Yomi and Sunday's Daf Yomi. I expect you to go to full report. Somebody find a cat, find some venom.
I'm not here Sunday, so yeah.
Apparently the cats have different digestion. They're not as susceptible to this venom. Okay. Ihachi, if that's true, dechavre nami. So then why can't you give it to your friend's cats? It's not bad for cats. Why not give it to your friend's cat? So the answer is dechavre kachish. So he says because your friends you'll it doesn't kill the cat, but it hurts the cat, it weakens the cat. So dide nami kachish. So then why give it to your cat? Can it hurt your cat too? So hadar bari. So because the cat will get over it. It's not a big deal. It's not so bad. So dechavre nami. So then your friend's cat will get over. Why is that a problem? Yeah. So the answer is hadar baris. He says nami hadar bari. He says zimnin debayil is vune. The answer is you don't know what your friend's plans are. He might be planning to sell his cat tomorrow, and then meanwhile his cat gets sick. And people are going to see he's got a sick cat, and now the price of the cat goes from like $8 to $6.50. I don't know what cats are worth. Cats. Sorry, but right. But anyway, your cat value, right? Everybody has diminishing cat values in these markets and the interest rates the way they are. You want to be able to make sure that your cat has highest value. So therefore, you don't give your friend's cat to drink. Not fair. Okay. Amar Ravasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yassi and Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, Shlosha Yenos Hain. Let's get back to the issue of about 3 different types of wine. That there's Yayin Nesach. Yayin Nesach is wine that non-Jews actually consecrated and set aside for idol worshiping purposes. So that has the din of real idol worship. It is Aser Behana. There is a prohibition on it. You can get any benefit. You can't drink it, but you can't use it to wash your clothes in it. You can't do anything. You can't get any benefit from it. It's Aser Behana because it's idolatry. Umetame tuma chamura, a bekazayis. And not only that, but we're going to liken anything that's used for Avodah Zara. We made a comparison already once. We called it comparable to a mace. So also all the rules of tuma that are attached to the rules of tuma can actually transfer impurity like a mace, like a dead body. So like in a kazayas amount. If I've got a kazayas of this wine, so in a container, then the person who's carrying the container becomes tamei. Anybody who's in the same room, under the same roof as that wine becomes tamei.
Kohanim, be careful.
Doesn't say Kohanim have to be careful because Kohanim. That's a good question. I believe that Kohanim are not prohibited from becoming tamei to the wine, despite the fact that Kohanim can't become tamei to a mace, and this is compared to a mace. It's still not a mace. I believe. We'll see when we get there, but my belief is that doesn't create an isser to Kohanim specifically for this. But this is to stay away from. Okay. Second of all, second type of wine on Lamed Aleph Amud Aleph, Stam Yenom. When you've got their plain regular wine, that's a wine bottle that is not made by non-Jews, right? I don't know whether it's been consecrated for Avodah Zara or not. I don't know, but if non-Jews have it, so that is Stam Yenom. Aser Behana. So we're going to treat it as though it is Yain Nesach, in that you can't get any benefit from it. Umetame Tumas Mashkin Beravias. However, we don't establish the rules of Tuma as associated as though we knew with Yain Nesach. We know it's going to have regular Tuma rules of other liquids, which is that it can accept Tuma when something is tummy touches it, and then it can transfer that Tuma to other things. Liquids can transfer tuma only to other foods and to other liquids, right? Not to people. So therefore,
when you put liquid on top of food, it adds more flavor to it.
That's not why the tuma transfers. It's just a matter of rishon l'tuma, sheni l'tuma. Those are the rules of tuma, which we don't necessarily have to get into at this point. But it's sufficient to mention that the tuma rules of the wine that is stam yenam are no different than regular wine. Right? When it came to Yayin Nesach, that received a stricter level of Tuma. When it comes to Stam Yenim, regular wine, that is equally Asur B'Hana. Stay away from that wine. Can't drink it, can't get any benefit out of it, out of a chumrah, out of a stringency, but they didn't make the same stringency when it comes to impurities as well. Okay?
Let's talk about a physical person.
Then we've got the third level. Then we've got Hamafkid Yeno Eitzel Ovid Kochavim. If a person gives a non-Jew, he's got his wine, it's his kosher wine, and he says, "Here, watch this." Hands this wine to a non-Jew, and he's not around to watch it himself. Aser Bishtia, then the wine becomes prohibited to drink.
It sounds like you're talking about number show. It sounds like.
That's what we're going to discuss. That's what we're going to discuss, right? We're going to presume that the issue, right? So it becomes prohibited to drink, umuter behana, but it's not a question of stam yenam. It doesn't become stam yenam because you're still allowed to get benefit from it, right?
Sell it to a non-Jew? Like this
He's not, you could sell it to a non-Jew. That's correct. That would be what you could do. You could sell it to a non-Jew, exactly. Okay, you could use it for... But they would have, they had wine that they would use in order to, like as an air freshener or whatever, right? You could use it for that, right? Just can't drink it, right? Also, b'shtia, umutzer b'hana, but you can get benefit out of it. Okay. Right. Now, v'atznan, but we learned in the Mishnah, hamafkid peirosav. Now, why should, we're trying to figure out, why should this be, right? This is a weird sort of a status. Either what are you worried about happening? Either you're worried that the non-Jew, it's the non-Jew's wine, in which case, then you should follow the rules of Stam Yenam and they should be also Rana, or you're not worried about it, in which case it should be completely kosher. So we're trying to figure out why it has this in-between status. So Vatznan, we learn in Mishnah. Hamafkid peirosav eitzok ovei kochavim. Let's say somebody says to a non-Jew, "Here, hold my produce," right? He gives him a big sack of wheat, and he says, "You put this in your storehouse for me." Harehen kepeirosav shel oved kochavim l'shvias ulamaser. You have to presume that the non-Jew may have switched the product, right? The non-Jew is not as makbid on the rules as Jews are, and so if the non-Jew needed wheat, he may have come and taken your wheat and then repaid it back, just put more wheat back into the bag later. But the difference is that if you've already taken Trumas and Meisers off of it, you have to presume the non-Jew put more wheat into the bag, and it's not your wheat, and you have to take Trumas and Meisers off of it again.
Your bag is closed closed. You give him the bag.
So we're not talking about sealed. Well, that's going to be an issue, right? What if you had it sealed or something like that? Then you know that it was tamper-proof. That would be a different story, right? This, we have to presume that the non-Jew is switching it. Okay? Same thing that if it's a Shemitah year, you don't know if the non-Jew switched your regular permitted produce for Shemitah produce, in which case now you have to treat it like Shemitah produce. Right. Now, there is a argument about whether non-Jews have to take Trumas and Maasros in the first place if it was their produce at all. This Mishnah is holding like the opinion that says that they would have to take Trumas and Maasros, and so that's why we're presuming that if the non-Jew switched it, if the non-Jew didn't have to take Trumas and Maasros, if you took already Trumas and Maasros and the non-Jew, even if he switched it, there wouldn't be any Trumas and Maasros, then you've got nothing to worry about, right? But this, according to this opinion, that the non-Jew would have to take Trumas and Maasros, if you did switch, then you have to worry that the non-Jew would have to, has given you produce that doesn't have Trumas and Maasros taken off of it, and you have to worry about that. So now, what you're essentially worrying about, according to this Mishnah, is you're worried about the non-Jew pulling the switcheroo. So if you're worried about that, so then how come the wine is not kosher, but it's not prohibited in Hana? Don't you have to worry that the non-Jew took your wine and put his wine instead, and now it should be stam yenam, and you should be also b'Hana? So the answer is, Kigon sheyichad lo keren zovis. He says what happens is, the non-Jew set up a special corner. He didn't just say, I'll hold it and put it in my storehouse. He said, this section of the storehouse is where I'm putting all your stuff. And why does that make a difference? Since he sectioned off an area of the storehouse, he has no business going there. And he knows that you have permission to go in there. He's not going to wander into that area and take liberties and switch things up because he might get caught. So therefore, he's leaving it alone. Since he's put it in a corner of the storehouse, we're presuming that he's leaving it alone, and therefore that is why, since he leaves it in a separate place. So that's where, right, he gives this non-Jew the key, right, and we're not worried about the switch. Okay, so now, therefore that's why the wine is acceptable. That's why not prohibited or not. However, if that's true, then why is the wine not kosher to drink? If it's your wine and you know that the non-Jew didn't touch it, why isn't it kosher to drink? Dahar Rabbi Yochanan, because what happened, here's an example of what happened to Rabbi Yochanan, Ikl leparud. So he says he went to this place, he went to this Lifrod, right? He went to this place called Frod. And Amar, Klum Yesh Mishnas Bar Kapara. He says, does anybody here, Bar Kapara used to live in this place. He says, who knows some halachos that Bar Kapara said? Maybe like hoping around, people were paying attention to Bar Kapara's shiurim. And he went to that location. He says, I'm looking for droshos from Bar Kapara. So I went to his city. So, Tanale Reb Tanchum Demin Parud. So, Rabbi Tanchum, who is from that location, he taught, Hamafkid Yeno Eitzel Ove Kochavim. If somebody leaves a barrel of wine by a non-Jew, Mutter Bishtia, you're allowed to drink it. Okay? Kari Alei, okay, Rabbi Yochanan heard that, and he said, Mokum Sheyipol Eitz, Sham Yehu. So he says, the place that the tree falls, that's where it is.
So, why are you allowed to drink it for not sure if it's given kosher or not?
Okay, well, what we said was that if it was a location that was reserved and set aside, and the non-Jew gave him a closet and gave him a key to the closet and said that's where you're going to put your stuff, then you're not worried about switching. And therefore, what here it makes sense that not only is it true that it's not prohibited in getting benefits, actually still your wine, it's kosher. He kept it in your storage locker, secure place, right? Your storage locker, so it's good, right? But he says Sham Yehu. What do you mean? The tree fell. That's where it is. No, Sakadek. That's what he means. El Sham Yehu Peirosav. That's where the fruits will sprout. Meaning he taught this halacha, and now the people who are living there now are like, they teach his halachos. They're comfortable with the halachos that he knows. Okay, so now we've got a dispute between this brisa that we had quoted and this mishnah, these two different stories, right? So which is it? Is the wine drinkable? Is it kosher wine or is it non-kosher? So Reb Zera says lo kasha. It's not a contradiction. Ha Rabbi Elazar, ha Rabbanon. He says that is it's two different opinions of two different Tanaim. One is Rabbi Eliezer's opinion and one is the Rabbanon's opinion. The Tanya is going to brisa. Echad halokeach ve'echad hasocher bayis bechatzero shel ovei kochavim. Okay, so let's say, right, somebody buys or he rents a house that is in a courtyard that belongs to a non-Jew. Okay, so he's renting this location from the non-Jew. Umil'uhu yayin, and he takes this house and he fills it up with storage for wine. Okay, umafteach ochosem bayad Yisrael, and he's got a key, or he's got some other kind of seal that he puts on the door. Right, he's got the right, exactly. He's got, or he's got the COR tape. Right, puts on the door, right, the official tape of the COR, right, and he puts that on the door. So now he knows nobody's going in there. Rabbi Eliezer matir. Rabbi Eliezer says it's kosher. Can assume nobody went in there, and that's fine. The Chachamim osrin, and the Chachamim say it is still osr, it's still prohibited. Okay, so you still have to worry about it.
And those 13 now become 9.
Right, because according to the Chachamim, they are worried that the person just with a single seal, that the non-Jew could forge it. Right?
It can be tampered with.
He'll tamper with it, exactly, right? So now, however, the Chachamim feel that's not that serious a concern. It's enough of a concern that we say best not to drink it, but it's not enough of a concern that we're going to cause somebody a loss enough to say that they can't get any benefit from it. So even the Chachamim hold it as a lighter prohibition, and that's the difference. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer says it's fine to drink, and the Chachamim say don't drink it, but it's not prohibited in getting any benefit from.
Is the fact that they only mention like one seal? Is that
that is going to be our issue? Yes, because we're going to see as we go on that if there are double seals are much better. Right? Double seals are very important, and that we're going to presume that they're not going to be tampered with if you see double seals.
Look at Soviets, right? They're open on for Shabbos. They need a double seal for kashrus reasons.
See, we've got our mashgiach. He knows all the details here. That's exactly right.
I'm not getting there tomorrow, but that's how it works. There, Soviets.
But that's what they do. They got their double seals to prevent the tampering, and this is why. Okay, this is good.
Wow.
It's halacha in practice. The Gemara is right here. Amar Rabbi Chia brei de Rabbi Chia bar Nachmani. Rabbi Chia, the son of Rabbi Chia bar Nachmani, said Amar Rav Chisda, and Amar Rav, in the name of Rav. The Amri La, some said it was Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Zeiri, the Amri La, and some say Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Li Abba bar Chama, Hachi Amar Zeiri. This is what halacha said. Halacha is Rabbi Eliezer. The halacha is like Rabbi Eliezer. Now, the halacha like Rabbi Eliezer, he says it's completely permissible with the one seal. Now, this is where we struggle a little because we said with two seals is really what we're going to start learning about the wine. We really need two seals, and that halacha is how we do for you.
The cork and
the wrapping on top. So that we do need two seals. So they question and try to figure out how to understand why this one situation is acceptable. And that's why they say that there's something unique about this case, that it was a place that it was reserved and set aside for the Jew, for example, that the non-Jew wouldn't even wander into that area. That in itself is a deterrent. There are numerous explanations to exactly what's going on here. The Rabbi Eliezer says that we hold the halacha is like this, but it is under very specific circumstances. And in practice, usually we need two seals. Right? So therefore we're going to say. Right, let's see if he has what he mentions here.
So this is an exception, basically, because I thought
this is an exceptional case, one case.
The majority.
Yes. So, but and they are why? Because why we go with Rabbi Eliezer versus the Chamim?
Yes.
So that's a good question. I suppose it's because there's a leniency and a derabanan in the first place. Remember, this is all a rabbinic enactment because we're concerned, and it's so therefore when it comes to rabbinic things, we tend to go leniently.
Okay.
Right. Let's see. Halacha is like he says Tazayin. Here's why. Tosfos and many of them ask that he says you're supposed to have two. Why you only have one here? And they give lots of different answers. Okay, that they give one. Tosfos answers Rabbeinu Tam that Rav comes along. Rabbi Sugisin number B'Yisrael Chashud is talking about if there's a
that you took the Jews out of the tribe.
That if that later on double wrappings are necessary when you have some real reason to suspect that the person is untrustworthy, but if you know that the person is regularly trustworthy, one would be sufficient. Anyway, they try to give various reasons why this is a unique circumstance and why generally we do go with the double wrapping and why one is sufficient in this circumstance. But this is the one circumstance you need a single wrapping. Okay. Amar Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says, "Kol mishtamer bechosim echad chutz min hayayin." Everything can be protected by a single seal, right? Normally, a single seal is enough to be able to know that it's not tampered, but not wine. Right? One seal is not sufficient to be tampered to prevent tampering. Right? Rabbi Yochanan says afil yayin mishtamer bechosim echad. Rabbi Yochanan says even one for wine, even one is enough. One seal is enough. Velo pligi, they're not arguing ha Rabbi Eliezer ha kerabanan. Right, it's an argument between Rabbi Eliezer and the Rabbanan, and that Rabbi Eliezer said it was acceptable, and the Rabbanan said no, you need more protections. Ekadamri there says Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says Hakol mishtamer bechosim betoch chosem, that we're supposed to say that everything is protected when you have a seal within a seal. That's where we're going to see the double seal. Chutz min hayayin, you need a double seal, except for wine. Shem mishtamer bechosim betoch chosem, that even with a double seal is not enough. You even need to have a person come and watch it. And you have to see a person watching it to make sure that it's not tampered. Rabbi Yochanan Amar afilu yayin mishtamer bechosim betoch chosim. And this version says, and this is how we hold, wine can be even if without nobody's watching the wine the whole time, a double seal is sufficient. If you've got a double seal, that is sufficient. V'tarvayu karabanan, they're both holding like the Rabbanan, who say that you need to have the double seal. And so there you go. The halakha is not like Rabbi Eliezer. The halakha is going to be like the Rabbanan. Mar savar ki pligi Rabbanan alei Rabbi Eliezer bechosim echad. One is holding that the Rabbanan are disagreeing with Rabbi Eliezer in one seal of a bechosim b'toch chosim sharu, but the Chachamim said it's permissible. They won't argue with Rabbi Eliezer if you've got a double seal. Umar savar filu chosim b'toch chosim asri. Then the other one says no, even on a double seal, they're still prohibited. Hey, and you need to have somebody watching it. So, let's first of all, what is a double seal? What is the double seal we're talking about? Amarava agna apuma de chavisa, shrika v'chasima. He says what you have is a container on top of a barrel. So they would have imagine you've got a barrel, right? And then you would take a container on top and put the container on the top. The container itself is seal number one. Then around the container on the bottom, they would put some kind of clay in order to seal that container, and you would put some kind of marking to indicate that clay is now sealed.
Like a padlock and a plumber. Those are two seals.
That's two seals, exactly, right? You could do it that way, right? So that was example number one. Then we give another example.
Midis, that Moshe Rabbeinu said. We have 13 midis that Micha Hanavi said, and now we have another 9.
The elo.
After
low, right? But if not, then if the clay is not there to seal, then that's not going to be considered sufficient. And he says dikula umehadek. Let's say you've got let's say you've got a wicker type basket over a barrel. Now this time the barrel has its own lid, right? And then you've got this other second basket that fits tightly over the top of that. That is a double seal. Lo mahadik, lo havichosim. But if it's not well sticking on tightly, then it's not a seal, right? If you can easily just flip the first basket off, on and off, that's not a seal. It's got to be really on it. That's chosim b'so chosim. Okay, node bediskia. So if you've got a wine skin, right? So you've got inside of a pouch. So you put the wine in like a container, and then you put that inside of a pouch. So chasimas piv lemata havi chosim b'toch chosim. What you do is if you put the wine pouch and you seal the wine pouch, then you put it in so that the top of the wine pouch goes into the bottom of the bag, and then you seal the top of that bag. That is a seal within a seal. But piv lemala lo havi chosim b'toch chosim. But if you put it in so that the top of the bags align on the top, that's not a double seal. You just open up the one and you'll wind up opening both of the seals. That's not. Now, v'ikayef pume lagav v'tzayer v'chosim havi chosim b'chosim. If you've got a single wine flask and you seal it, then you fold it over, right? And you fold it, and then you seal it a second time. That could be, right, sealed fold over. That is also a seal within a seal. Right? Basic bottom line, you need to open up the two seals separately in order to get to the contents. That's when you've got a seal within a seal. Right?
Very good.
Tana Rabbanan. Our rabbis learned. Berishona hayu omrim yayin shel ein yayin shel ein shal ayin kushi aser mipnei biras srika. So he says, at first they were saying that a wine of a place, there's a place called Ein Kushi, right? The Kusim were living there. So they were saying that wine is prohibited. Why? But they were not, it's not prohibited because they were idol worshippers. They're Kusim. Kusim don't worship idols, right? Mipnei biras srika, because they had non-Jews who were living there. And
the non-Jews idol worshippers?
The non-Jews were idol worshippers. The Kusim didn't keep the rabbinic enactments. So therefore the Kusim weren't worrying about the non-Jews touching their wine.
I think they were the one that leads the 7 mitzvot of Noah.
Who?
Noahite laws.
The Kusim actually thought they were Jewish. So they were keeping halachos-ish.
So like Jews wannabe, basically.
Yes, they were Jew wannabes. So they were keeping the mitzvos of in some sort of a way, but they weren't keeping it completely, right? So, but they weren't worrying about the non-Jews coming in contact with their wine. They themselves weren't contaminating it, but since they were presuming that they would live near a place where there were non-Jews. V'shel brakta also mipnei kfar parshoi. The Kusim that lived in a place called Barkasa, right? They are prohibited because they live near a place called Kfar Parshoi, which were non-Jews, and that was, they were going to contaminate their wines. Vishel Zagdur, or Zigdur, there was a place called Zigdur, and that was also Kfar Sholim because of a place called Kfar Sholim where the non-Jews lived. And so since they lived too close to the non-Jews were coming potentially and touching their wine, so we weren't let you buy. So generally speaking, there wasn't a prohibition against using Kusi wine, but the Kusi wine that came from those places, they said those you have to stay away from. Chazru lomar chavios pesuchos asuros. Then they changed their mind. They said if you buy an open barrel of wine from those places, okay, you're right, then it's prohibited. Stumos, but the sealed barrels, mutaros, those are okay. So meikar ma'asaver levasof ma'asaver. What did they think at first to say it's prohibited, and then at the end, why did they change their mind and say that it is permissible? So meikara saver en kusi makbid amaga ove kochavim. At first they said, we know the Kusim are not worried about rabbinic enactments. So they're not worried about the non-Jews touching their wine. So lo shna, psuchos lo shna stumos, doesn't matter whether the wine is in a sealed barrel or an open barrel. You can't trust where it's been. Ulevasov saver, then they realized at the end, kilo kapid apsuchos, the Kusim, they don't care about their open barrels of wine. But astumos, but the closed barrels, makbid kapid, right? They are worried because they realize, why are they sealing their barrels? Because they're going to make them for sale. They're going to put them in the market. They know those religious Jews, they don't drink this stuff, so they were careful and they kept it away from the non-Jews. So therefore, their sealed barrels, they were careful with, and so therefore it became okay for us to buy the sealed barrels. So that's what you do. Ustumos mutaro, so you're telling me that the sealed barrels are acceptable. Uraminu, and Lamed Aleph on the base, there's a contradiction. Hasholech chavish shel yayin biyad kusi v'shel. So if you send a barrel of wine with through a kusi, v'shel tzir, right? And what's happening is the barrel belongs to a kusi. The messenger who's bringing it to the Jew is a non-Jew. So the non-Jew is holding onto it in between. Okay, so shel tzir is fish brine. So the concern is that fish brine, the non-Jew, if he opens it up and tampers it, he could take out fish brine and replace it with non-kosher fish brine, right? So you're not going to be able to know the difference or tell at all. And v'shel mores. Now morias was a fish hash, kind of like chopped up fish. It's very clear by looking at it that it's kosher.
Like fish gelatin?
It might be. I don't know what fish gelatin looks like. This is like a fish chopped up fish thing, and so what they would do is you can't exchange it for non-kosher fish because it's got piece of fish in it, so you can tell that it's kosher, right? But what they might do is they might take some and then fill up with wine to replace whatever was missing, because wine was cheaper than the morias, so therefore they might put filler in it, right? So we're worried about them adding non-kosher ingredients to it. So if you're leaving this stuff with a non-Jew who's transporting it, you have to worry about it, right? So biyad ove kochavim, the non-Jew is transporting it. So im makir chosmo v'sasmo, so mutter. If you know that you can recognize the seal, right? Then okay, this has not been tampered with. Then you know the kusi sealed it. It was kosher when the kusi packaged it. The non-Jew did not tamper with it, and now you have it, so it's mutter. Imlav, but if not, so then usher, it is prohibited because you have to worry about the non-Jew tampering it. So now, when you just said you can buy sealed wine from a kusi, so why is that? So he says, or shouldn't we be worried about the tampering? So Amar Reb Zera says, lo kash, it's not country. Kan be'ir, kan bederech, it depends. If you're in the city, right, everybody understands and sees what the kusi is doing here. So therefore, he knows that he's got to watch and make sure that the non-Jews don't touch it. So therefore, he is worried about that. But the brisa, that they need to have a seal on them, right? That is talking about when it's getting shipped. Through the shipping, nobody's watching what's going on while it's being shipped. In which case, it needs to have a seal on it in order to verify that it's kosher, and you can't just rely on the fact that it wasn't shipped because you don't know the non-Jew's going to open it when nobody's around. Okay. Maskif lo Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Rabbi Yirmiyah asked the following questions: Mi dehanach de'ir lo b'derech. Also, he says, but wait a second. Even the things that are in the city, how did they get from the place where they were manufactured to the markets? They had to get transported. So at some point, a non-Jew put it on a wagon and walked it there, or So maybe there was tampering along the way there too. Elam Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Rabbi Yirmiyah explains, Bein agitos shasinu. We're talking about amongst the wine presses during the wine pressing season. Kevan de kuliyama afchi. Since there are a lot of people who are wandering around the wine press at that time, Mirsis, the non-Jew, is too worried about tampering. He's not going to tamper. It's not worth his risk. So that's why this is the again another mashkiach rule, right? This concept of the yotev and nichlas being around and being present is enough of a reason why we can trust that somebody's not doing something because they're fearful of being caught, even if you're not there entirely all the time. So Amar hashta ichazi li mafsidli. He says because he knows if somebody catches me opening the barrel and playing with the barrel or whatever it is, then I'm going to wind up losing out. So therefore, they don't tamper it within the city. Okay, good place to stop. We'll stop here.
Hey, wow.